topic of the day today, which is introducing a couple of the folks who are winners from the Go-to-Market Top 40, which is an inaugural awards that our friends at Aptitude 8 have done. So before we get rolling, hello everyone, Matt Volm, CEO and founder of RevOps Co-op, a global community of 18,000 plus folks from kind of all over the map. We do a lot of digital events like this. We have in-person events. We have courses in education. We have a Slack group. We have a newsletter, lots of different ways that you can get involved. I'm going to turn it over to Em Wingrove from Aptitude 8, who's going to introduce the panelists that we have and get us into the winners spotlight for the Go-to-Market Leadership Awards. So Em, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Thanks for the introduction, Matt. I am Em Wingrove. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer over at Aptitude 8. We're an elite solutions partner in the HubSpot ecosystem, #2 Global Partner of the Year in 2024, and we sponsored the GTM Leadership Awards. If you're new to the GTM Leadership Awards, we launched this program to spotlight the operators who maybe aren't always getting the credit or the spotlight, right? They're the ones scaling teams, building systems, building GTM machines and engines that actually run, right? Big impact here. They represent the best and brightest in RevOps, marketing ops, sales ops, CX ops, and today you're going to get to hear from some of them. 4 of them, to be exact. With that, we couldn't have done this without our judges, a powerhouse panel of GTM leaders who reviewed hundreds of nominations. Thank you again to Ryan Gunn, founder of Attribution Academy, Sangram Brajra, the CEO of GTM Partners, Kim Hacker of Arrows, the CEO of Arrows, and of course, our hero, Matt Volm. Thank you. It was fun reviewing them. And of course, we have to give a nod to all 40 of our winners from 2025. Huge congrats. And I would also encourage you guys, go follow them on LinkedIn. As one of the judges, one of the criteria that I certainly judged pretty hard on was knowledge share, right? And the community, giving back to the community. And pretty much every single one of these winners has that, right? They're on LinkedIn, they're active, they're engaging in the conversation, and they're trying to level the folks around them up even more. So definitely go give them a follow. And of course, a quick shout out to our sponsors, HubSpot and Arrows, PandaDoc, Attribution Academy. They really help bring this whole program to life to highlight these amazing bright minds. All right, let's get into it. What are we going to be talking about today? We've got 4 of the winners here with us. So I want to give each of them the floor to spotlight their builds, some of the highlights from their nominations. Then I would like to get into a more of a discussion format. I'm a data girly. I love data. And across all these submissions and nominations, we had a lot of trends and commonalities. So I want to highlight those and really break them apart with the winners. And we'll do a fun lightning round of questions for the winners. And then we'll close sort of looking forward and taking them all and putting them to use. So with that, let's jump in. Like I said, we're going to give all of our speakers, our winners, a chance to speak, and they'll give us a window into not just, high level stuff, but also some tactical pieces. So with that, our first winner is Amani Phipps, the Director of BizOps at Bonusly. Amani, I'm very curious to learn more about the impact of operationalizing partnerships. That came through very strong in your nomination, but I also will tell you I cannot take my eyes off of that 3rd bullet because HubSpot's head of partnerships, Karen Ng, at Inbound last month, she just led a keynote on this concept of hybrid workforce, and you're doing it. So tell us more, please.
Love to. First, thank you all for having each of us. I think it's really exciting to be a part of this group, and I'm really excited for the conversation to come. And also thanks to everybody who showed up to talk further about some of the fun that we have going on. A quick overview for me, Amani, right, like Em said, Director of BizOps at Bonusly. We're an employee experience, engagement, and recognition platform. Been around for about 13 years, give or take, and I've been with them for 3.5. Now, a big piece of what I enjoy doing is simply learning, like, what does it take to build a sustainable and scalable organization? And that's where ops has me absolutely locked in. So when it comes to the work that I'm doing to transform partnerships to drive new revenue, there's a few ways that I think about this. One is within revenue operations, my mind is continuously stuck on revenue. Like, that's it. That's the big word that I care about and what I always try to tie back to. And in the partnerships that we're working on right now, for those who don't know about Bonusly, the 10-second version is a big part of our platform is a social feed that allows employees to share recognition and appreciate moments with their colleagues. A part of that appreciation involves giving points. Those points draw back to some dollar value, and then you can redeem that dollar value for some level of redemption. Well, a big part of how I'm thinking through a lot of and the work that we're doing on this team, navigating our rewards ecosystem, is thinking about, well, how do we optimize the economics to drive better cash flow and revenue for the business while also providing a delightful customer experience? And I think both of those are incredibly important. And a lot of the work that we're taking forward as we think about how do we expand the offerings that we can provide in our rewards catalog, which is really interesting. How do we optimize the economics on existing partnerships that we have? And then how can we find other ways to drive revenue for the business that aren't just coming from ARR? And really distinguishing between those two is something that I'm super excited about. A big part of how I operate is in a really empathetic way. I tend to lean into just being me. It's really cool that the orgs that I get the chance to work with are just filled with people who are really smart and really passionate and curious about the things that they're doing. And they're sharing that with me. Everybody here gets the opportunity to share that with each other. And I think that's really cool. And that's also like my niche for the organizations that I tend to work with. Try to focus more on, maybe not more, but I guess the same as the way that I make people feel and my colleagues is the things that they're going to remember as they move forward. The work that I do is a big part of it, and great. Those are the things that are on LinkedIn and the resume. Like, that's fantastic. But the way that I get to work with my team, whether it's my direct reports, the people that I work under, those are the things that I'm so keenly aware of. I've been incredibly fortunate to work with so many amazing people over the years. And it leads me into this last piece, because I think there's a lot of really great things that we're going to get the chance to talk about, is building an AI employee for every employee. The short version is, one of the things that I continue to think about is AI is going to fundamentally change the way that we work, and we have a part to play in that, right? A big part of what I'm thinking about is AI does an incredible job of connecting dots. And I think about, well, how does the brain work? If you can build a brain of your organization and then you can tie it to things that can do, you can create a system that allows every employee within the organization to have this one tool that helps them in the way that makes the most sense to them in any period of time. I will share visuals and a lot more of that in the future, but really excited to continue the conversation.
Thanks, Amani. So when I think of RevOps, I think of people, process, and tools. And when I think about this like hybrid workforce, it brings a whole new meaning to it. It's interesting that you're really actually employing it and putting it to work. Love to see it, and I can't wait to see more and for you to show us actually some of what you built. So let's move on to our next winner. We've got Olga Traskova, who is the VP of RevOps at Birdeye. I'm seeing another practical implementer of AI here, but I'm also eager to hear more, Olga, about the challenges and wins in creating internal alignment. We will talk a good bit about alignment and activation. Tell me a little bit more.
And I love that title. I always thought of myself as a practitioner, and now I have AI in the mix. So thank you for calling that out, the practical implementer of AI. I've been in operations for more than 17 years and always thought of myself as very hands-on, focused on execution. I'm, very deep into the tools that we use, into processes that we implement. I believe in RevOps having this very hands-on experience, because the customers that we serve, our marketing teams, our sales teams, CS teams, we need to understand their workflows. We need to put ourselves in their position. So with being practitioner, now with AI in the mix, I don't think of AI as just another buzzword. It's about clarity on the execution. And what we did in the past year, we took the things that drain a lot of time and drain a lot of judgment, such as pipeline QA, understanding forecast risks, having enablement feedback, and put some AI sprinkles on it. We used AI to make revenue operations, judgments, processes, flows more precise. Right now, we're working on surfacing deal risks and deal scoring using AI and taking it one step at a time. So for me, it's not about chasing the future of AI. It's bringing AI into your everyday execution and sort of forcing yourself to think about, what can I do differently? We need to force ourselves through the change management before we force all of the other teams. When it comes to forecasting at 95% accuracy, right? That was one of the key goals for the company in the beginning of the year. How do we achieve that clarity? How do we get to the forecasting accuracy? For us, it was around building a very tight process and then having a very tight execution around that process, right? Together with the finance team, BI team, sales teams, and RevOps teams, we built the rhythm, we built rituals where every day of the week, every team is responsible for the forecasting piece that they own. We iterated and reiterated, and we're now very happy to see in certain segments, forecasting to be at around 100%. What I'm most excited about, when it comes to alignment across marketing, sales, customer experiences, now that we are seeing enablement coming in hot into the picture. And what I'm very excited to see is that enablement becomes AI powered and RevOps connected. So it truly becomes embedded into the ecosystem of the go-to market. It's not just about the title or the person anymore. It's about connecting all of the dots. For me, that would be the focus for the 2026. It's not going to be just about giving people content or putting them through the learning path. It would be about giving confidence to all of the levels, from a sales rep or marketing specialist to a BDR to my C-suite. That's a little bit about myself and my goals for next year.
So I was going to ask you if you faced any sort of, I don't know, resistance or, folks being nervous about implementing AI. And then I'm like kind of biting my tongue on it because just the way that you laid it out, how it's fully embedded, it kind of removes some of the fear just from like an outsider looking in. Did you face any of that? And if so, how did you sort of overcome the fears around implementing AI and trusting?
I think the hardest part was not overcoming the technicalities of it, but it was about building trust. We talk a lot about change management when it comes to implementing certain things with our sales organizations or other cross-functional departments that we're working with. We started with revenue operations. So it was about change management for ourselves. This is where I was enforcing it and reminding the team every day, think about how you can do that with ChatGPT. Let's think about how we can use Claude or some other tools. What can we do to modernize our processes, right? To build the rhythm, to change the mindset. The teams were hesitant in the first, right? And they were probably afraid to be measured in some new capacity or new metric. But as you build this muscle and as you build this rhythm, at the end of the day, you become curious and you want to explore more and you open up yourself to experiments.
Well done, Olga. It sounds like you planted all the right seeds and you've grown believers in your organization. All right. Our next up is Sandy Robinson, the VP of RevOps and Growth at Quavo. And I'll tell you guys, so through this process, I've learned a lot about Sandy from Matt, from others. She's pretty popular in the little ecosystem here. And she's one of those folks that's kind of seen it all, done it all. Her background and experience are very vast across different industries, different roles, which uniquely qualifies her for what she's implemented at Quavo. She's the first RevOps hire. It's been like 11 months, I think I read in the nomination, and she built out the whole GTM process and the whole function from the ground up and modernized the CRM, a word I'm going to take now from Olga. Sandy, I want to hear about that. And I'd also love to get sort of an update, right, on how things are going since you've done this, you've rolled it all out. Tell me more.
Great. Thank you very much for the introduction. And I really appreciate being here and honored to be part of this group. As mentioned, I'm the VP of RevOps and Client Growth at Quavo, Fraud and Disputes. We work with banks and credit unions to automate their dispute resolution process. So we are an enterprise SaaS selling motion. So when I started with Quavo about 11 months ago, I took on the role of not only VP of RevOps, but Client Growth. What it's really done is given me the opportunity to work in the business and on the business. I'm working with clients and I'm understanding kind of our challenges that we have internally. So that's given me a really hands-on, unique perspective to be able to implement the go-to-market motion that we really needed to. So when I started, we were in spreadsheets and we were using Zoho, just kind of a little bit, mostly for just some pipeline stuff. Great tool. I'm not here to debate CRMs. It wasn't necessarily what we were going to support our growth in kind of more of an enterprise SaaS motion. So we decided shortly after I started that we were going to implement Salesforce. And that was going to be a Q2 rock, but ended up getting pushed up to Q1. The same time hiring an account management team and building that out. So what I found was I have been doing this for 20 or so years, but one of the things that I really didn't want to do was just lean on the same old tools that I've always used. Even tools that I've looked at that I used 3 years ago may not be relevant, right? There is now a super powered version of it out there. So I wanted to ask questions and explore, take input, sit on a lot of demos and things as I really orchestrated the tech stack. But the way I started was, I think just you have to really start with the data. What is the foundation of the data, right? So who are our accounts? Are we going to use leads versus accounts? That was like a big thing. And I went with, we're going to use leads if we haven't already identified the accounts, and we built automation to convert it, right? Because that's the one downside of Salesforce is you have leads and contact, whereas in HubSpot, you don't. So there were just fundamental things like that in the beginning that I had to be really strategic about deciding and learning from my experience that reps don't manage leads and contacts in the history of sales reps. They just literally never do it. So why make them do it? But it started with the foundation of the data. And then the process, right? So you have to have a process before you put it in a CRM. So we had to really align on what is our forecasting process? How are we going to forecast? What are our stages? And then, implementing it and executing. So we were able to get the sales process out first. That was most urgent and important for forecasting. And then in Q2, we brought some basic automation to the marketing, to all the inbound process. So all our web forms are hooked up. They're automated through Zoom Info, kind of come through into auto matching process. So we went from, and this was part of my application, we were talking like a week for inbound leads that were sitting in somebody's inbox to over half of what's coming in is just auto match because we've already identified them and assigned. So we're just really improving that. But now it's take it to the next level. We've done a great job of building the foundation, but how can we take it to the next step, and where can a tool like potentially Clay fit into this, and how can we further automate and enrich this versus the traditional, just looking at inbound form fill. And so that's next. That's in the beginning stages in this quarter. But it's great. It's going great. Some of the implementation is a little slower than I anticipated. I've had part-time contract help, so I've had to kind of cool myself down on what I can deliver in a quarter, but we're largely on track. And, the coolest thing I think out of all the new tools and everything is my fun little AI role play bot. That's just been such a great tool. We brought in an SDR, didn't even plan to bring in an SDR, but we did. I was like, okay, I've got to get her something to, practice with, because she's like the lone wolf SDR. So it was really fun to be able to put that together. But that's kind of a little update on where we are, but it's going really well, just not going fast enough for me. But we are kind of trucking along, and the team's given us great feedback too.
Oh, I love to hear it. And I feel like I'm going to need like a separate session on this role play bot. I'm guessing it's all voice, not text.
No. It's like, yeah, it's voice, and you just talk into the screen. It's GTM Buddies bot. It's pretty cool. It's pretty easy to engineer the scenario, which for me is good. So the prompts, give it a few prompts, throw in a few case studies, and voila, you've got a pretty cool bot you can play with. And it's tested my skills too, because I want to test it out and see if it works. And then I was like, man, I need to up my prospecting skills, because I wasn't beating the bot at first. So I wanted to beat the bot.
Oh my gosh, now you're almost like gamifying it. I love this.
Yeah.
Also, just shout to all of you on the call. You've all mentioned, I know we haven't gotten to Amber yet, but using tools that are new and different, and maybe processes that are new and different. That's scary for most people. And that you, as the operations leaders, are saying, no, we're gonna find a new way of doing this, or we're gonna use this latest tool on the market. And hybrid workforce, I keep coming back to that too as well. Like this role play bot, that could be a whole other person, right? And you've created, efficiency gains that are, I mean, I feel like that's even hard to measure, but wonderful to see the innovation and to see that you guys are so open to all of the new tools that are out there. Flexibility is coming to mind as well for me. So thank you, Sandy. Let's get into Amber. Amber is the director of revenue over at Growth. I love to see the word overhauled on here. I got to call that out. It was all over your submission as well. And it's giving, I know the tech, I know the people, and I have a vision. That's what I am taking away from that. So what were some of the biggest levers in this overhaul, in this sort of revenue turnaround?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just to give a little bit of context as I answer that question, I oversee sales and marketing. I'm a recovering chief operations officer. So I have lived on the service side of the solution-oriented world for 10 years. Coming into this role, I was very excited about the marketing side. I wanted to get back to my marketing roots that I left about 10 years ago. A plan was always to overhaul and hire a sales team. I am over 6 months in, and I have not officially hired another salesperson because the overhaul is so different than what it might have been 5 years ago. We are a solution-based company, so our people and our services are how we make money, which means that when we're going into a sales process, we're going deep into what does your current tech stack look like, what does your data schema look like, and designing essentially what a future CRM implementation is going to look like, as well as marketing automation, website, bringing all those things together. When I came in, I very much in a naive state was like, all right, we're going to overhaul this in a way that is very traditional funnel go-to-market thinking. I literally have a funnel on a slide somewhere that I don't think I've touched in 5 months. Would I redo that? Would I go back and do the funnel and the old approach? Yes, I would. Because one, we needed that foundation in order for me to build a sales team of the future. We needed to have clear process so that as I bring on more team members, we all understand you don't get there if you don't have a clear process. So my goal is one day to be at 95%. That'd be amazing. But I know that I won't get there without clear process. So I built that foundation, and then I needed to figure out where our pipeline was sitting was under 3-time coverage when I first came in. And I knew that that wasn't going to get us to the goals that we needed to hit before the end of the year. And funnel thinking, I had to go back and look at what is the math we have to do to get there. What's interesting is that this company has always been a big believer in marketing. So driving leads, driving people through the funnel has never been a problem. It's more about creating sales-ready leads. And so where the funnel broke down is that the top looked really great, and then I had to overhaul it and think a little bit more about how do we create more sales ready and create a pipeline that's going to give us the coverage we need to close sales down the road. And we were able to do that. And a big part of that is, interestingly, in a world of overabundance of technology and options and choices to make, people are really loving trusting relationships, people that they can lean on. And we have really gone deep into building better relationships with key partners, building relationships with our existing customers so that they can be advocates for us, as well as just really leaning on gaining trust in the sales process. We probably do for free what most companies charge a lot of money for, simply because we aren't the biggest. We're certainly as capable as our competitors, but we like to build that trust early on so that customers and prospects see that this is a relationship worth having after I sign on the dotted line. And people have been a huge part of that. And the only way that I would ever have enough human time to put into those relationships is AI enablement. One of my favorite go-to things after I figured out the process, the foundation, is then I was like, how do we automate? How do I take something that feels like it's taking me too long, or I'm sitting up at 10 o'clock at night doing it because I didn't have time during the day? Those are the things that I quickly took to our AI engineers, or even just tinkered myself and was like, what do I do? So one of my favorites is I have a lot of bots. I'll talk about some of them later on, but one of them is simply Fathom. I know everybody loves Gong, and I'm not going to compare recording tools, but Fathom by far has been the best transcription tool I've ever had. And it literally creates my briefs so that I can hand that off to my engineering team really quickly. And I don't have to do a bunch of chasing of data and information. So shout out to Fathom, but also shout out to ChatGPT for being able to take that and transcribe it in a way that makes sense.
Yes, and also on the point of AI, but also trust in people and relationships, my spidey senses are telling me that in person is coming back too. All the ops people out there listening, we need to make sure that we're finding a way to track offline activity.
In person,
that's the future.
I am amazed at like picking up a phone and just calling people or texting has made a comeback. Sometimes those are the moments that close a deal for me.
I love it. This is exciting. I'm excited to get into the discussion points now. As I was saying earlier, there were definitely some trends that we noticed as we were going through the nominations. We pulled 3 big themes from those nominations. Those were patterns that just kept showing up over and over again. And it feels like we should talk about them. We should break them down. Over the next few slides, we're going to get into the meat of it. But the 3 themes that we came across were revamping, overhauling, GTM architecture, enablement as a GTM lever. I really am excited for that part because it goes kind of back to the people piece and then the real role that AI is playing in execution. So let's open it up to the group for each. We'll keep it conversational, but also tactical. And the goal here really is to surface what's working, what's challenging, what's hard, right? And also what's changing, what is evolving. So let's start with GTM revamps. I'm going to pick on Sandy and Olga for this since you guys did such great work. I guess what was the impetus, right? Like what was the starting point? I know, Sandy, you mentioned that data was how you knew where to start, but what made you get into it in the first place? How did you identify the problem that sent you down that path?
Well, the problem after starting in the new position was we had to pull together a bunch of spreadsheets to update a board deck. And I was like, okay, we need to think about quickly making some decisions in terms of what is our CRM strategy going to be. So there was definitely a lot of thought behind how it was going to be done. And there was a practice when I got there. It's not like there wasn't anything. But yeah, it was putting together that kind of first reporting scramble shortly after I got hired.
There is nothing like a board deck scramble. And if you've been there, you know, if you know, you know, it will put you on your toes. Olga, what about you? What was sort of the impetus behind it?
I would say the shift in the go-to-market strategy as we're going up market and want to acquire enterprise companies, we need to also realize that the funnel is changing and maybe it becomes now the flywheel, not so much the funnel. It is not linear anymore, right? So we need to, as RevOps, we need to architect the new agile platform and process and where the conversational data, deal health, behavioral signals, they actually inform how we forecast, how we prioritize, and how we coach. So for us, the spark was around the shift in the go-to-market strategy and realizing that these buyers, they buy differently, they behave differently. So we needed to adapt to their behavior.
Listening to the customer is always important and to the market. What worked and what didn't?
Well, I mean, can I add on to you said that it's not linear. So part of what looking at what's working and what wasn't working, one of the things that when I was, when you get handed something and there were like, I think 9 stages on the opportunity, right? And so in thinking about what Olga said, that sales isn't necessarily linear, the funnel, I think of a bow tie or whatever, we kind of started with that, right? Like what should the stages be? And kind of went away with stages and went with milestones, right? And this idea that our stage is our forecast category, and we have a direct, very rigid, like if you're putting it into, best case, it means this. And if you're putting it into commit, it means this. And then everything else is just a milestone, right? Because you could move back and forth between stages, things change. And that's actually really worked in terms of making it easier and better to forecast and get that alignment versus having 9 different stages, and one stage was even a demo stage, and it just like none of it made sense to me. So we kind of like flipped everything on its head, and that's definitely been working. And then getting that aligned into Salesforce with the Salesforce out of the box forecasting modules. So we just mapped it up and defined our forecast categories based on that to make it simple. So it's really worked where I'm just kind of leveraging things that are out of the box, how can we optimize that out of the gate without getting, doing customization unless we absolutely have no other option, or if we need to bring in another tool. So that's really worked so far, so good. I think what didn't work is the support that I have some contractors, right? So I was leveraging contractors, not a full-time RevOps like systems engineer. So I'm right now bringing that role in, but it's definitely something that's been a challenge in kind of getting the resources and getting approval for contract work and things like that. So that's been a little bit of a challenge for me because I want to move faster.
What about you, Olga? What worked?
I would just want to tap on what Sandy and Amber were saying, right? Make sure you have tight process, you have consolidated data before you design any automation or bring in any AI, right? So what worked for us, it's very similar to Sandy, is having a very clear process, very clear expectations from every party that is involved in that process of what needs to be done at every stage or milestone of your sales process or your BDR or expansion, etc. Having that clarity in the systems. Implementing tools has also worked well. We've been in RevOps for quite some time. We're pros at implementing tools. Underestimating the change fatigue, right? That's what backfired. And what I learned as these tools become more complex, there's more change management required, and the path to adoption takes longer. Think through your enablement, your training sessions, your life coaching, office hours, etc. Whenever you sort of implement this, either AI processes or tools, new conversational insights, platforms, etc. We need to change the playbook when it comes to what happens after we technically implement it. Now, to me, implementation means went live plus enablement completed plus everyone is trained and adopted, so it goes way beyond just technical implementation.
Love that. You mentioned markets change, people change. And then Sandy, you also mentioned you think about it more as like a bow tie. It sparked, I don't know if you guys are familiar with loop marketing, but it's basically taking the funnel to the flywheel and now into loop marketing. Definitely check that out.
The infinity.
Very
From the enablement side, like I'll just double down on what Olga said. I could have done a better job in enablement, right? And this is something that I'm very passionate about. Sometimes, you're moving fast and it's like, hey, we trained on that. And then I realized, well, I haven't done a follow-up or I haven't inspected it. And so just really being conscious of the enablement and checking in and getting your power users and your early adopters and things like that. That's something that I'm circling back on and making sure that I have as part of my plans.
And just to add on this is 100% true for us as well. We'll learn that we need to bring in enablement in the field leaders early on into the architecture phase. They would know the nuances and some behavioral frictions that data cannot show, that spreadsheets would not show, right? So I can gather a lot of insights and data points from analytics, right? But I still need to bring in the people in the field to help me execute.
And with that, let's talk about enablement. And I'm going to pick on Amber and Olga. And Olga, you were just mentioning how important enablement is, but what does it really mean, right?
I think it's back in 2010, Forrester, right? They defined sales enablement as the bridge between the go-to-market strategy and the tactical execution. What I'm learning now is what I said in the beginning. It's not just the title, it's the entire ecosystem, and enablement has evolved from just, onboarding decks or certification checklists. It's now more of an operational lever. And we just talked about this continuous marketing loop. To me, it's the same with enablement. It's this lever that will continue to drive the revenue velocity. For us, we attack it from all of the standpoints. We have sort of enablement in the flow. We join team calls from the tactical perspective and the execution perspective, right? So we cover everything from onboarding to continuous learning, right? But we also want to meet our customer, which is either BDR team, sales team, CS team, where they are. We not just share learning materials and assign certain lessons or certifications and conduct live sessions. We join their team calls. We join their team calls and we walk them through any sort of change or implementation or gaps that we have discovered by listening to their calls or analyzing their deals. We cover those learnings in their team calls, and we would send like a quickly newsletter, quick tutorial, 2-minute tutorial, bite-sized learning. And it's a continuous learning for us as well. As we uncover gaps in the execution process, we attack that very quickly. In just 2 days, we would have some sort of quick tutorial or content to address that. And we would work with all of the teams separately because they would have different needs and they might have different gaps at their own schedule, meeting them where they are. It's all been sort of data-driven enablement, right? We're looking into the insights in our CRM. We're looking into the conversational insights. We're looking into the behaviors. And then from there, we would put together certain recommendations, content, etc.
Amber, what about you?
Yeah, I'm a team of one salesperson. So I think about the enablement in a very different way. It's sort of 3 different lenses. There's how do I help the people that are going to help me drive revenue at the end of the day? And the first is my solution architect team. They're the people who design and engineer the technical components of what we do. And so for them, it's how do I make their job easier? They have a lot to do every single day. I take those Fathom recordings, I condense that information, and I hand it off to them. The second is how do I enable partners? And that's HubSpot partner, that's a key partner for us, but it's also Event Happily and other partners that we work with, Apollo. And I look at what are the questions that they get that maybe they're not best suited to answer, but I can help them in their day. I feel so fortunate because I came from the service side of the world. So answering product related questions is very easy for me to do, but I build those things in a way that when I grow my sales team next year, I can distribute all of that knowledge that's been in my brain out to them. Some of it lives in a GPT that they can just go ask those questions. And then the third one is customers. The biggest person I need to enable is a customer to make a wise decision. And in order for them to do that, they're constantly faced with really difficult, hard things that sometimes they're really well equipped to do. Sometimes they have no idea how to navigate. Is Zendesk better than HubSpot kind of questions? And so my job in there is, I always say help first, sell second, is to break down the complicated and enable them to make the right decision. And all of that serves as content that our marketing team can then use and share with everybody in the world. But most importantly, in the here and now, it's to help those people who are navigating those difficult things that they just can't answer for themselves. And one day it'll serve the sales team that'll have to coach and align. And to answer that question on Super.io, I don't have a sales team where I need to reinforce behaviors in the day-to-day, but I certainly have seen it work in that way for past clients.
All right, let's move over kind of back into AI and automation. What are some of your favorite use cases?
I have a Proposal Ron is probably my favorite use case. Proposal Ron is named after Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. No bullshit if you know who he is. But Ron essentially helps me create my proposals. I feed all of the information I have, integration designs, requirements from the client, key things, and Ron will on the back end essentially spit out to me a fine-tuned proposal, which I then will pop into Gamma a lot of times if I need something to be presentation ready. And by far Gamma has been like, it's not so secret anymore, weapon that has been the first tool that I found that has done really well when it comes to designing your materials using AI. And so that my favorite use case is basically that thing that I used to I would have sat there for hours and hours redesigning a PowerPoint to make it ready for presentation, and now I can do it in 5 minutes and saves me a ton of time. And so that plus Proposal Ron are lifesavers.
I love that we're naming our hybrid workforce.
Oh yeah, they're all named after Parks and Rec. There's also Copy Nope that writes my copy.
All right, Amani, should I go to the next slide?
Sure. When I think about the things that are saving time, I think about meeting recordings. We use Granola for everything. That is absolutely amazing. First pass writing, I'm always going to use a GPT or something like that, and then I can spend my time iterating. Comparable, we build custom GPTs. I have a deal desk assistant that ensures that it answers every questionnaire and every RFP. Hundreds of questions are done in a couple of minutes. I have an AI legal counsel. That's my first pass. I obviously need to be competent enough and understand the provisions of our policies and our contracts, but it is amazing when it comes to things like, what do I need to think about 6 months from now? I'm not doing all the research in the world to know absolutely everything about where the AI Regulation Act is and how it's been progressing in the EU, but I have something that can do that deep research for me. So when I think about, like, that's one way that we're saving time with the tools in our everyone's already talked about different ways that we can use AI to, and Amber was hitting on this earlier, populating information in your CRM. Take the information from your transcript, right? Parse that out into each of the properties that you actually have and update deal properties so you can save your reps time. Like, all of this comes together, which is super interesting. The other way that we save an abundance of time is a model that I'm sure many of you have either thought about, implemented, or maybe on the radar. One of the ways that we are using AI is to solve product gaps. One of the most common things, and I think it's pretty common to have, whether it's a Slack channel, a Teams channel, or some group that answers data questions. Often it is product ops engineering. Hey, how many customers do we have that is based in this country with these many users, but only countries where they have at least X number of users in each country? It's a good question, but it takes time. It ends up in a queue, and then it piles up across your organization. Internally, we built a tool we call it Bonus GPT. It's a Slack app. And we use OpenAI's platform. We have a variety of different prompts, and we wrote some code that simply points. We have different prompts that do different things, but a lot of it comes back to this idea of building a brain. If we can get all of our information in one place, and then we can prompt to do the things that our brain does, which is connect the dots, we can give people access to the right information in a format that is digestible. So if you want to have an understanding of what does this product feature do, great, ask what we call Bonus GPT in Slack, and you'll get an answer populated. If you want to, you're a product person and you're working on this new feature, and I need to understand how often has this feature come up in conversation over the last 6 months. Great. I can ask Bonus GPT and it'll parse through Gong transcripts to understand, oh, this is the theme. This is the trend. These are the pains. If we're talking about board time, right? I care about, well, what is our conversion rate for organizations that look just like this? I can ask Bonus GPT and it'll do the math and populate an actual response so anybody can get access to that information. What saved time for others is taking me out of the equation. Often ops, eng are the blockers because we are the purveyors of information. We understand how to parse through. We know how to write the query, and other stakeholders in the organization need that info. We're a smaller team with less than 80 people at this point in time. For us to move incredibly fast, we need to empower people with the information that they need to make the decisions that they need to go and make, and trust that they're getting the reliable information. So the rest of what we're doing is just connecting the dots, right? How do we use Fin in Intercom to be able to respond much more quickly and use the same type of context to respond to queries astronomically faster, because every touch point is the product, and time to value for a customer looks different in every different phase. So these are, right, I'm building an agent in Lindy right now that's going to be able to respond to our sales at queries so we can answer extremely quickly, and we know what emails to parse through versus not parse through, right? All the fun are a couple of the examples of things that we're working through right now.
Love it. And it sort of is the marriage of both AI and enablement. So thank you, Amani. All right, let's get into the lightning round. I'm going to ask you guys some quick questions, looking for quick answers. We'll go around the horn. I'll call out the order so that we don't have the same person starting each time. First question is number one most important KPI. We're going to go Amani, Olga, Sandy, Amber. Amani, number one most important KPI. There can only be one.
Revenue. Everything ties back to revenue. And then I use the 5 whys to determine the largest impact on revenue at any period of time, and what are the other things that I need to be looking at.
Awesome KPI.
Forecasting accuracy would speak to your process setup, your strategy, your execution, and how confident you are in all of those things.
And you are leading the way with 95%.
Right now for us, it's new op creation. So MQL to SCO conversion rate right now. We're tracking top of pipeline, new pipeline very closely.
Love it. Amber, number one most important KPI.
Kind of on what Olga said, pipeline coverage, forecast, like knowing that I've got what I need to close what needs to happen tomorrow because our closing rates are great. I just got to make sure I keep pumping revenue in.
I heard you earlier with that 3x coverage and it rang true. I know the pain. All right, next question. And we'll go Olga, Sandy, Amber, Amani. Top 3 tools you literally cannot live without. Olga.
Well, funny, not funny, but Excel. I cannot live. Anything goes back to creating a pivot table and analyzing something in Excel. Any AI I would export, and I need to work on change management of myself. Lean data, we are overutilizing lean data. Everything that we can build with lean data, we build ourselves. Anything like that, I don't need to go to IT or business applications, love those teams. But if I can do this within our RevOps team, I would do that with lean data. And I come from marketing and marketing ops world. So Marketo is always going to be in my heart. I just dearly love Marketo.
All right, Sandy. Top 3 tools.
I cannot live without EBSTA. So EBSTA, not only for my revenue intelligence forecasting, but also for the call intelligence and the AI from that. There's just so much in their contact creation. It's insane. Our CRO can't live without it either. Spiff, I don't like doing comp and spreadsheets. I've been doing it. We just got it set up. I can't live without it. I never want to go back. I can't do it. And then, I'm just going to throw it out there. ChatGPT. I just on a daily just can't live without it.
All right, Amber, top 3 tools can't live without.
I literally wouldn't eat or have paid the bills for the last 10 years if it weren't for HubSpot. So I have to say HubSpot first. And then Gamma and Fathom would be my other 2.
All right, Amani, top 3 tools.
I'm right there with you on HubSpot. Olga, I'm right there with you in a spreadsheet. Live, breathe it day in and day out. But I also need coefficient so I can get any information into that spreadsheet. And the third, it's tough for me to say any AI tool, but I think generally I need something that is an LLM or a model that I can get quick info. GPT, Claude, who cares? I need a workflow tool that's N8N, Lindy, Agent Builder, and then I need a vibe coding tool, whether it's Replit, Lovable, whatever be the case. But I need that AI stack.
Dang, vibe coding. It's a whole other call, y'all. That would be fun to talk about. All right, alignment versus activation, which is harder. So alignment being getting everyone on board, consensus building, buy-in, and then activation, actually turning things on, executing, and rolling things out. Sandy, we're gonna start with you.
Right now, for me, activation.
Okay.
I think for the general world, it's probably alignment, but for me, it is activation because we're on a small team and moving fast.
What do you think, Amani?
I think activation is really difficult, but right now, the biggest thing is alignment as we're going through a number of different changes in the org.
What about you?
Activation, that's what I've been talking about, turning strategy into behavior, execution, keeping it tight. This is where we can die. Everyone nods on the Zoom call, but then when it comes to doing the things, this is where we die. So activation, 100%.
All right, and the final lightning round question. If you could have any one magical GTM superpower, what would it be and why? Amber, I'm going to start with you.
Empathy. Sounds like not technical, but I would say it's the one thing that helps us win deals, but also build the alignment and trust we need with our team members internally to make things happen. So empathy would be number 1.
All right, Amani, what's your superpower?
If I can have one, it would be photographic memory. I think it just fits in how the world is moving in the future would be super interesting. Olga,
what's your superpower?
Well, we are moving up market, right? And this is where I'm excited to move from, say, MQLs into buying groups, into buying networks. So for me, would be this, signal detection that would make my scoring, forecasting, deal scoring way, way easier. Signal detection.
Sandy, what would be your magical GTM superpower?
If I had a magical GTM superpower, it would be 100% adoption all the time on all the tools that we roll out.
That's all right. I know we're close on time. I did see a question about the app. I think, Sandy, you're the one that mentioned it about proposals, potentially AI proposals.
I don't think that was me.
Maybe that was the commission one.
Who did anybody mention the proposal.
Yeah, it's a custom GPT. His name is Proposal Ron.
Yeah.
He shared some tips with you for sure. But yes, he's very designed to serve my purpose, but I can teach you how to serve your own. And maybe you can get like someone else besides Ron.
Proposal Ron, Mr. Swanson. I love it. I want to thank all of our panelists for dropping a whole lot of knowledge. It's very clear why y'all were some of the top 40 operators that made the cut and the list. A big part of being a great operator is spreading and sharing all of that knowledge to everybody else. Thank you all very much for spending the last hour and doing that with us. To all the attendees out there, thank you very much for joining us as well. Em, thank you for being an incredible moderator and guiding the conversation today. That's all I got for you all. So again, attendees, panelists, moderators, everyone here, thank you all very, very much. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will see you on the flip side. Take it easy, everybody.